The galaxy burned. From the outer spiral arms to the dense core systems, the Vrexian Empire cut through civilized space with unstoppable force. What had begun as minor border skirmishes in the Orion Spur had, within just 5 years, become the greatest threat the galaxy had ever faced. Admiral Lee stood at the viewport of Coalition Station Epsilon, watching as another refugee ship limped into dock. Its hull was scorched black from a narrow escape, and emergency patches covered what must have been devastating hull breaches. The ship carried barely 1,000 survivors from Proxima Colony, once home to millions. How many made it out? Lee asked, not turning from the viewport. Captain Park consulted her datapad, her face grim in the reflection of the reinforced glass. Less than 1% of the population, sir. The Vrexians hit without warning. Their bioships consumed most. Of the orbital defenses before ground evacuation could even begin, Lee's weathered face showed no emotion, but his hands tightened behind his back. 23 years in the Coalition Defense Force had prepared him for war, but not for this systematic extinction. Any word from the 7th Fleet? He asked. None, sir. We lost contact after they engaged the Vrexian Armada near the Tau Ceti bottleneck. Based on refugee reports, they were, Park hesitated, completely overwhelmed. Another Coalition fleet gone. That made 5 in the past month alone. Across the command center, analysts and officers worked frantically at their stations. The room buzzed with urgent communications and the soft beeping of monitoring systems. Everyone looked exhausted, their uniforms wrinkled from days without proper rest. The Coalition, once a proud alliance of 17 spacefaring species, now operated from a handful of scattered strongholds, their territories reduced to refugee camps and emergency outposts. Admiral, called Communications Officer Cho, we're receiving a priority transmission from Centauri Prime. Lee crossed the room quickly. Centauri Prime was their last major stronghold, home to over 2 billion Coalition citizens and the seat of what remained of their government. Put it through, he ordered. The main screen flickered to life, showing Governor Sato. Her usually immaculate appearance was disheveled, and the office behind her occasionally shook, dust falling from the ceiling. Admiral Lee, the Vrexians have breached our outer defense grid, she reported, her voice steady despite the circumstances. Their main fleet arrived 40 minutes ago. At least 300 bioships, including 2 of their World Eaters. Lee felt the blood drain from his face. World Eaters were the largest class of Vrexian vessel, living ships the size of small moons that literally consumed planets for resources, breaking down everything from atmosphere to core. We're deploying everything we have left, he assured her, though they both knew it wouldn't be enough. The Kestrel and Valiant battle groups can reach you within 18 hours. Governor Sato shook her head. We'll be gone by then, Admiral. But our defense satellite network captured something you need to see. She typed something on her end, and the screen split to show intercepted Vrexian communications, mostly incomprehensible chittering and hissing, but with certain phrases translated by their AI. They fear something, Sato continued, or someone. The translation AI has picked up repeated references to a species called humans, Lee frowned. Humans? I haven't heard that name in a long time. Most believe they're extinct or never existed at all, but the Vrexians are devoting significant resources to search patterns along the Perseus Arm, far from any current Coalition territory. Lee's mind raced through old military academy lessons. Humans had withdrawn from galactic affairs centuries ago after some fundamental disagreement with the then peaceful Galactic Council. History painted them as paranoid, warlike, unwilling to disarm despite an era of unprecedented cooperation. There's more, Sato added, her voice dropping. Our deepest archives contain sealed records from the early Council days. I've accessed them under emergency protocols. The screen changed again, showing ancient footage of human warships, angular, brutal vessels that shared none of the elegant design philosophy of Coalition ships. They bristled with weapons, their hulls scarred from previous conflicts. The early Council feared them, Sato explained. Not because humans were particularly advanced, they weren't, but because of their approach to warfare. While we built defensive systems and hoped for peace, they prepared for the worst. Always. Another explosion rocked Sato's office. Closer this time. Emergency alarms began blaring on her end. The Council dismissed them as barbarians, she continued, urgently. But what if they were right? What if they saw something coming that we didn't? Lee understood immediately. You think they predicted the Vrexians? I think they prepared for something like them, and now the Vrexians are actively searching. For Earth. They wouldn't allocate resources to hunt myths, Admiral. The communication began breaking up as Centauri Prime's transmission network suffered damage. Find them before the Vrexians do, Sato urged, her image freezing and distorting. Earth is somewhere in the... The transmission cut to static. Lee stood motionless for several seconds, the command center silent around him. Then he turned to his officers, decision made. Captain Park, prepare my personal scout ship. Lieutenant Cho, pull everything we have on Earth's possible location. Navigator Jin, plot a course for the Perseus arm. Sir? Park looked confused. Centauri Prime needs our remaining forces. Centauri Prime is already lost, Lee said quietly. But if humans still exist, if they've been preparing all this time... He straightened his uniform. The Vrexians are searching for Earth. We need to find it first. As his crew jumped to action, Lee returned to the viewport, watching the endless stars. Somewhere out there might be humanity's lost homeworld, and perhaps the galaxy's last hope. Admiral Han's small stealth vessel dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the very edge of the Sol system. The ship, designed for reconnaissance rather than combat, had barely survived the journey. Its hull was scorched from a too-close encounter with a Krell patrol near the Epsilon cluster, and the engines whined with strain each time they powered up. We made it, Han whispered, gazing at the distant yellow star on the main view screen. After 3 weeks of desperate flight, dodging Krell patrols and navigating unmapped routes, they had reached humanity's legendary home system. Lieutenant Song, Han's navigation officer, looked up from her console. No active transmissions detected, minimal energy signatures. If humans are still here, they're keeping very quiet. Han nodded, not surprised. The historical records suggested humans were deeply cautious, perhaps even paranoid. Take us in slowly. Passive scans only. As they crept further into the system, the crew grew increasingly tense. Everyone had heard stories about Earth. Some believed humans had destroyed themselves in some ancient war. Others thought they had simply abandoned the galaxy to its fate and hidden away. Sir, called out Officer Yoon from the sensor station, I'm detecting unusual debris patterns throughout the system. The view screen shifted to show fields of shattered metal and rock, the remains of ships and possibly stations, some appearing centuries old. Battle debris, Han observed. Someone tried to invade this system. More than once from the look of it. They passed the gas giants first, enormous planets ringed with moons. Each moon they scanned showed signs of mining operations, but all appeared inactive. As they approached the inner system, something new appeared on their screens. Admiral, Yoon said, voice tight with concern, we're detecting automated platforms throughout the system, thousands of them. Han leaned forward. The platforms were dark, running on minimal power, but their design was unmistakably military. A defensive grid that encompassed the entire system, more extensive than anything the Coalition had ever built. Still no communications, Han asked. None, sir. It's as if a proximity alarm blared through the bridge. 3 Krell hunter ships had appeared behind them, having somehow tracked their path through hyperspace. Evasive maneuvers, Han ordered, but he knew their small vessels stood no chance against dedicated Krell war vessels. The stealth ship banked hard, engines screaming in protest. The first Krell energy blast missed them by meters, superheating the hull plating on their port side. The second was about to fire when something extraordinary happened. The defensive platforms surrounding them suddenly flared to life. In an instant, precision beams lanced out from dozens of the previously dormant stations, converging on the Krell vessels. There was no prolonged battle, no exchange of fire. The Krell ship simply ceased to exist, reduced to expanding clouds of superheated vapor. Stunned silence fell across the bridge. They were watching us the whole time, Song whispered. Before Han could respond, a transmission cut through their communication system. Short, direct, and unmistakably human. Unidentified vessel. You have entered restricted space. Identify yourself and state your purpose. Han took a deep breath and stepped forward. This is Admiral Han of the Galactic Coalition. We come seeking humanity's aid. The galaxy burns while the Krell Dominion consumes world after world. We hoped Earth might still exist. For long minutes there was only silence. Then, maintain current position. Deviation will result in immediate neutralization. New coordinates appeared on their navigation console, directing them toward Earth's moon. Are we really going to trust them? Asked Yoon nervously. They just vaporized 3 warships without warning. They also saved our lives, Han replied, and we've run out of alternatives. The journey to the lunar coordinates took several hours, during which they observed Earth itself, a blue-green jewel that matched the ancient descriptions, though with far fewer visible lights than historical records suggested should be present. On an inhabited homeworld, the coordinates led them to what appeared to be an empty crater on the far side of the moon. As they approached, however, the crater floor shimmered and disappeared, a holographic concealment hiding a massive hangar bay that opened to receive them. Armed figures in sleek, powered armor surrounded their ship as it landed. Han and his senior officers disembarked slowly, hands visible. The soldiers' helmets concealed their faces, but their stance and efficiency spoke of extensive training. A tall figure approached, helmet retracting to reveal a woman with stern features and calculating eyes. I am Commander Kim, Earth Defense Force. Follow me. She led them through corridors carved directly into the lunar rock, past rooms filled with technology more advanced than anything Han had seen in Coalition space. Eventually, they reached a command center, overlooking an enormous underground complex that extended for kilometers in every direction. Welcome to Lunar Base, Commander Kim said, turning to face them. Humanity's first line of defense. Defense against what? Han asked. You've been hidden for centuries. Kim's expression darkened. Not hidden. Preparing. She gestured to a holographic display showing the galaxy. Red markers indicated Krell-controlled territory, nearly half the charted systems. We warned the Council about the threat from beyond the rim 300 years ago. Our long-range probes detected the first Krell scout ships entering the galaxy. 300 years? Han was stunned. That's impossible. The Krell only appeared 50 years ago. No, Kim corrected. That's when they wanted to be seen. They've been infiltrating border worlds, establishing hidden bases, studying galactic civilizations for centuries. We presented evidence to the Council, urged preparation, suggested defensive measures. What happened? Song asked. Kim's laugh was bitter. They called us warmongers, paranoid barbarians, said our military focus made us unfit for civilized society. She pointed to another display showing coalition ships being torn apart by Krell bioweapons. Tell me, Admiral Han, how has pacifism served the galaxy? Han had no answer. The coalition had prided itself on maintaining only defensive forces, on solving problems through diplomacy rather than strength. That philosophy had collapsed instantly when faced with the Krell's implacable hunger. Why help us now? Han finally asked. You could have stayed hidden. Let the galaxy fall. Commander Kim's expression softened slightly. Because despite everything, we're still human, and humans don't abandon their neighbors to monsters. She turned to a communications officer. Contact the Admiral. Tell him Operation Long Night is now active. She faced Han again, determination etched in every line of her face. You came seeking aid, Admiral. You're about to get much more than that. Earth has been silent for centuries, but we never stopped watching, and we never stopped preparing. For the first time since the Krell invasion began, Han felt something he had almost forgotten. Hope. Commander Kim led Admiral Han through a series of pressurized tunnels connecting Lunar Base to a waiting shuttle. The small craft was unlike anything Han had seen before, sleek with no visible propulsion system and a hull that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. This is a Shadow-class stealth transport, Kim explained. We'll reach Mars in under an hour. Han couldn't hide his surprise. An hour? That's impossible. Even with the most advanced coalition drives, the journey takes at least 8 hours. Kim's smile was thin. The coalition stopped advancing its technology centuries Ergo, we didn't. The journey passed in tense silence. Han spent most of it staring through the viewport at the black emptiness of space. Earth grew smaller behind them, while the rust-red sphere of Mars expanded ahead. Unlike Earth, Mars showed clear signs of habitation. Vast dome structures covered portions of the surface, and lights twinkled across the night side. "I thought humans retreated to Earth," Han said. "That's what we wanted everyone to believe." Kim's voice was matter-of-fact. "After the Council dismissed our warnings, we knew we needed to prepare on our own terms, without interference." The shuttle descended toward what appeared to be an ordinary crater in the southern hemisphere. As they approached, the crater floor shimmered and disappeared, revealing an enormous circular opening. The shuttle glided into the darkness, landing in a vast underground hangar larger than any spaceport Han had ever seen. "Welcome to Olympus Station," Kim said, as the shuttle doors hissed open. Han stepped out onto the hangar floor and froze. The air left his lungs as his eyes tried to comprehend what stood before him. It was a ship, if such a modest word could describe the monstrosity dominating the cavern. Black as midnight, it resembled no vessel Han had ever seen. Where Coalition. Ships were elegant, with sweeping lines and gleaming surfaces. This was angular and threatening. No aesthetic considerations had tempered its design. Every aspect screamed of brutal, efficient purpose. "The HSS Retribution," Kim said quietly, watching Han's reaction. "Humanity's answer to extinction." Han found his voice. "It's monstrous. It's necessary," Kim corrected. 20 kilometers long, powered by an artificial singularity core, armed with weapons that can crack planets." She turned to face him directly. "This is what your precious council called excessive militarization, when we proposed building a fraction of this capability as a joint defense force." Han couldn't tear his eyes away from the Dreadnought. Its surface was studded with what could only be weapon emplacements, each larger than the Coalition's heaviest cruisers. What appeared to be launch bays lined its flanks, suggesting it carried smaller vessels within its enormous hull. "You've had this all along?" he managed. "The Retribution is just one of 7, and they're merely the largest class of vessel in our fleet." Han finally looked away from the ship to stare at Kim. "Fleet? What fleet?" "The Council record said humans abandoned military spaceflight after the isolation." Kim laughed, a sound without humor. "Follow me." She led him to a circular platform that rose rapidly through the facility. They emerged in a vast command center carved from the Martian rock. Hundreds of humans worked at stations, monitoring displays showing everything from weapon systems to long-range scanners. One wall displayed a holographic map of the galaxy. Tiny lights pulsed throughout it, thousands of them scattered across every sector. "Each light represents a human installation," Kim explained. "Outposts, listening posts, automated defense platforms, supply caches, stealth bases within nebulae or asteroid fields. For 3 centuries we've been building, waiting, watching." "But why?" Han asked. "If you knew about the Krell, why not warn us?" "We did warn you." Kim's voice hardened. "Your council called us paranoid, said our warrior culture was incompatible with a peaceful galaxy. So we left, as they wanted. But we never stopped preparing." She gestured to an officer who brought up footage on a nearby screen. It showed humans training in various combat scenarios, fighting in zero gravity, practicing ship-to-ship boarding actions, conducting ground assaults in environmental suits. While the Coalition embraced comfort and grew complacent, we forged ourselves into a unified force, Kim continued. "Every human receives military training. Every civilian occupation has a combat application. We built our entire society around one purpose: survival." Han watched the footage with growing unease. The humans moved with practiced precision, their tactics ruthlessly efficient. There was none of the ceremonial flourish that characterized Coalition military exercises. This was pure function. "You turned your entire species into soldiers," he said softly. "We turned our species into survivors," Kim corrected, "something your Coalition failed to do." Before Han could respond, alarms blared throughout the command center. A young officer rushed to Kim's side. "Commander, long-range sensors have detected a Krell scouting fleet approaching the Kuiper Belt," They found us. Kim showed no surprise or concern. Instead, she looked almost satisfied, as if a long-awaited moment had finally arrived. How long until their main fleet arrives? She asked. Based on their communication patterns, less than 72 hours. Kim nodded and turned to address the entire command center. This is not a drill. Operation Long Night is now active. Authorization code Phoenix 7 Alpha. Her voice remained calm, but carried absolute authority. Alert all outposts. Deploy sleeper. Cells. Activate all dormant installations. The room erupted into controlled activity. On the galactic map, the scattered lights suddenly began to pulse brighter. What's happening? Han asked, watching in amazement as thousands of new points of light appeared across the display. What's happening is that humanity is done hiding, Kim said. Those new signatures are installations we've kept completely dormant until now. Bases built inside asteroid fields, within gas giants, beneath the surfaces of moons throughout Coalition and Krell space. Automated factories, shipyards, defense. Platforms, all activating simultaneously. Han's mind struggled to grasp the implications. You've been in Coalition territory all along. We've been everywhere all along, Kim corrected. Watching, waiting, preparing. A different officer approached. The Retribution and Battle Group are ready for immediate deployment, Commander. Admiral Joe requests your presence on the bridge. Kim nodded and turned to Han. It's time for you to make a choice, Admiral. Return to what's left of your coalition and await extinction, or witness firsthand what happens when humanity goes to war. Han looked once more at the enormous Dreadnought visible through the command center's viewport. It no longer seemed monstrous to him, merely necessary. He thought of Centauri Prime, of the billions who would die without help. I'll come with you, he said. Kim nodded, as if she'd never doubted his answer. Then let me show you how humans fight. As they walked toward the Retribution's command shuttle, warning klaxons echoed throughout the massive facility. Around them, men and women moved with purpose, their faces set with grim determination. There was no panic, no confusion, only the practiced efficiency of those who had spent generations preparing for this moment. Han realized with a chill that ran down his spine that the humans hadn't just built weapons during their isolation. They had built a weapon of their entire civilization, and now that weapon was about to be unleashed. The vast blackness of space rippled as the human battle group exited faster than light travel just beyond the Proxima system. At the center of the formation loomed the HSS Retribution, its massive hull absorbing light rather than reflecting it, creating a void in the starfield. Flanking the Dreadnought were 5 smaller vessels. Though smaller seemed a poor description for warships, each the size of a coalition cruiser. Admiral Han stood on the Retribution's bridge, his hands gripping the railing as he stared at the tactical display. The scene unfolding before him was grim. Proxima Station, once the pride of the Coalition's border defenses, hung broken and burning in orbit around a dying world. Surrounding it was the Krell fleet, over 200 biovessels of various sizes, their organic hulls pulsing with sickly green energy as they methodically tore the station apart. My God, Han whispered. We're too late. Commander Kim stood beside him, her face impassive. No, we're right on time. She nodded to Communications Officer Lee. Open a channel to all Coalition frequencies. The young officer worked his console. Channel open, Commander. Kim's voice rang out, calm and clear. Attention, Coalition forces. This is Commander Kim of the Earth Defense Fleet. We have received your distress call and are moving to engage. Hold position and prepare for extraction. Static crackled before a desperate voice responded. This is Acting Captain Shen of Proxima Station. What is Earth Defense Fleet? We don't recognize your signatures. We'll explain later, Captain. Right now I need you to gather all survivors in your central hub and prepare for immediate evacuation. On the tactical display, the Krell fleet was reacting to the new arrivals. Their attack on the station slowed as the bioships began to reorient, forming a defensive perimeter. They've noticed us, Weapons Officer Cho reported. Krell Command. Vessel is broadcasting to their fleet. Translation suggests confusion. They don't recognize our ship designs. They're about to get a proper introduction, Kim said quietly. She turned to Han. Admiral, you might want to hold on to something. Han gripped the railing tighter as Kim addressed the bridge crew. Battle stations. Deploy gravity shields. Warm up the singularity cannons. Launch strike craft. The bridge erupted into controlled activity. Status reports flowed in from various stations as the massive Dreadnought awakened from its dormant state. What's a gravity shield? Han asked. Instead of answering, Kim simply gestured to the view screen. The space around the human ships seemed to warp and bend, like looking through a heat haze. Stars distorted and stretched around them. The Krell fleet is launching attack formations, Tactical Officer Jin reported. Bioweapon platforms charging. Their first wave will reach us in 40 seconds. Kim nodded, unconcerned. Let them come. The first wave of Krell ships, sleek predatory craft that resembled deep-sea creatures, accelerated toward the human battle group, their organic weapons glowing with accumulated energy. They fired in unison, dozens of searing energy beams, converging on the retribution. Han flinched instinctively, but the beams never reached their target. Instead, they bent and curved around the Dreadnought, redirected by the invisible barrier surrounding it. Gravity manipulation technology, Kim explained, noting Han's shocked expression. Their energy weapons can't penetrate a field that bends space itself. The Krell ships adjusted quickly, changing tactics. They split into smaller groups, attempting to flank the human vessels from multiple angles. They're adaptable, Kim observed. Good. Officer Cho, you may commence firing. Aye, Commander. Phase cannons locked on primary targets. What happened next would haunt Han's dreams for years to come. The Retribution's weapons didn't fire beams or projectiles in any conventional sense. Instead, sections of space simply ceased to exist where Krell ships had been moments before. Perfect cylindrical voids appeared, cutting through multiple enemy vessels at once. When the voids collapsed seconds later, the severed sections of Krell bioships imploded, crushed by the sudden restoration of normal space. Phase displacement technology, Kim said, her voice clinical. We don't destroy matter. We temporarily remove the space it occupies from our dimension. The surviving Krell vessels regrouped, still outnumbering the human ships more than 30-1. They resumed their attack with increased ferocity, some now attempting ramming tactics since their energy weapons proved ineffective. They're persistent, Kim noted. Time to show them what the Retribution really is. Officer Park, deploy the strike fleet. The massive Dreadnought's hull began to shift. What Han had assumed were armor plates peeled back, revealing dozens of hangar bays along the vessel's flanks. From these openings poured hundreds of smaller craft, fighters, bombers, and what appeared to be medium-sized destroyers. The Retribution isn't just a warship, Kim told Han as they watched the smaller vessels form up into attack formations. It's a mobile fortress, a carrier for our main assault fleet. The human strike craft moved with incredible coordination, forming complex three-dimensional patterns that confused Krell targeting systems. They struck with precision. Their weapons varied but equally devastating. Some fired conventional projectiles that somehow passed through Krell shields. Others deployed what Kim called dimensional fracture bombs that created expanding spheres of distorted space, shredding anything caught within. On the main view screen, Han watched as a particularly large Krell ship, a command vessel by its markings, attempted to retreat. Before it could accelerate to safety, one of the human destroyers intercepted it. The smaller vessel fired a single projectile that adhered to the Krell ship's hull. Moments later, the command ship collapsed in on itself, crushed by an artificial gravitational field so intense it compressed the massive vessel into a ball of superheated matter, no larger than a shuttle. We've cleared a path to Proxima Station, Tactical Officer Jin reported. Remaining Krell forces are in disarray. Kim nodded. Deploy rescue shuttles. I want those survivors off that station in 20 minutes. As the human fleet executed their rescue operation, the remaining Krell ships began a full retreat, abandoning their attack on the station to flee the system. Their departure was not orderly but panicked. Vessels collided in their haste to escape. Bioweapons fired wildly at nothing. Should we pursue? Officer Cho asked. No, Kim replied. Let some escape. Let them carry tales of what happened here. Back to their hive queens. Han stared at the battlefield, if such one-sided annihilation could be called that. Hundreds of Krell ships drifted in pieces, while not a single human vessel showed significant damage. This wasn't a battle, he said quietly. It was execution. Kim's expression remained neutral. This was necessary. The Krell understand only strength and fear. Today we've shown them both. As rescue shuttles docked with Proxima Station, the station's surviving crew got their first good look at their saviors. The Retribution's enormous shadow fell across the broken station, blotting out the local star. In that darkness, the Coalition survivors gathered at viewport windows, watching as human ships methodically eliminated the remaining Krell stragglers. One young Coalition officer turned to her. "Commander." "Sir," she whispered, "are they here to save us or replace the Krell?" The commander had no answer as he stared at the massive Dreadnought that had, in minutes, accomplished what the entire Coalition fleet could not in years of fighting. This say, Retribution's bridge. Kim turned to Han. "This was just one battle group against a minor Krell fleet. When the rest of our forces mobilize..." She let the implication hang in the air. Han nodded slowly, understanding at last why humans had hidden for so long, why they had built such terrible weapons in secret. They hadn't been preparing for a war. They had been preparing for a harvest. The galaxy held its breath as the human fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Krell home system. No longer a small battle group, this was the full might of humanity unleashed. 7 dreadnoughts, including the Retribution, accompanied by thousands of support vessels. Each massive capital ship cast long shadows across the stars, their hulls absorbing light like cosmic predators. Admiral Han stood on the Retribution's observation deck, watching as tactical displays showed the Krell defenses mobilizing. Unlike at Proxima Station, here the Krell had gathered their full strength, thousands of bioships forming concentric defensive rings around their homeworld. "They've committed everything they have," Han observed. "Their entire remaining fleet." Commander Kim nodded. "As we expected. The Hive Queens never flee their nest, no matter the threat." She studied the display with cold calculation. "They've had 3 days to prepare since we destroyed their forces at Proxima. 3 days to realize what's coming for them. And yet they still choose to fight," Han said. "The Krell don't understand surrender. It's not in their biology." Kim turned to Communications Officer Lee. "Open a direct channel to their command structure." The main screen flickered before resolving into an image that made Han's skin crawl. A Krell Hive Queen stared back at them, a monstrous creature with multiple compound eyes and chitinous plates covering what might have been a face. Behind it, partially visible, were several others, their movements jerky and agitated. "This is Commander Kim of the Earth Defense Fleet," Kim spoke clearly, her voice betraying no emotion. "You have witnessed our capability at Proxima Station. That was a small fraction of our true strength." The Queen made a series of clicking sounds that the translation system rendered into words. "Humans. Long hidden, now found. Your worlds will feed us as all worlds must." "No," Kim replied simply. "Your expansion ends today. Your forces will withdraw from all conquered territories immediately. Your ships will disarm. Your breeding programs will cease." More angry clicking. "Krell do not yield. Krell consume. It is our purpose." "Then we offer you one final choice," Kim said. "Surrender or extinction. You have 1 hour to decide." The Queen's mandibles spread wide in what might have been the Krell equivalent of laughter. "We are the devourers of stars. We have consumed 1,000 species. You are just one more." Kim cut the transmission and turned to Han. "They've made their choice." For the next hour, the human fleet maintained position, making no aggressive moves despite continuous probing attacks from smaller Krell vessels. Han watched with growing unease. The Coalition would have used this time to plan complex attack strategies, to coordinate flanking maneuvers and fallback positions. The humans simply waited. "Shouldn't we be preparing for battle?" he finally asked. "There won't be a battle," Kim replied. "Not in the way you're thinking." When the hour expired, Kim gave a single order: "Deploy the Lightbringer." A small, nondescript vessel detached from the Retribution's underside. No larger than a standard shuttle, it accelerated toward the Krell sun, bypassing the defensive formations entirely. "What is that ship?" Han asked. "The culmination of 3 centuries of human physics research," Kim answered. "Officer Park, activate gravitational lensing around the fleet. Full protection." The space around the human ships distorted dramatically as powerful field generators created a bubble of warped spacetime. On the tactical display, Han saw the small vessel reach the outer corona of the Krell sun. "You might want to shield your eyes," Kim warned. The vessel disappeared into the star's blazing surface. For several seconds, nothing happened. Then, the sun's surface began to ripple, massive solar flares erupting from all sides simultaneously. The star's core pulsed visibly, its natural fusion processes disrupted by whatever the humans had deployed. "What have you done?" Han whispered. "We've initiated a controlled stellar collapse," Kim explained, her voice clinical. "The Lightbringer carries a device that alters the quantum state of hydrogen atoms, disrupting the delicate balance of forces inside the star." The sun began to shrink, its outer layers falling inward at impossible speed. Light bent around it as its mass compressed into an ever smaller volume. The Krell ships nearest to their star were pulled in by the suddenly intensified gravity, unable to escape as their home sun collapsed into a singularity. Within minutes, where a life-giving star had burned for billions of years, only a black hole remained, a perfect darkness surrounded by the superheated remains of the star's outer layers. The shockwave spread outward, engulfing the inner planets of the system, including the Krell homeworld. Han stared in horror at the display. You destroyed their entire system." "We ended the threat," Kim corrected. "Permanently." In the days that followed, the remaining Krell forces throughout the galaxy found themselves hunted by human strike teams that seemed to appear from nowhere. Dormant human bases activated in every sector, revealing a network of military installations that had been hidden in plain sight for centuries. Without the guidance of their queens, the Krell hierarchy collapsed. Some fought to the death. Others, displaying previously unknown capacity for self-preservation, surrendered to coalition forces. 2 months after the destruction of the Krell homeworld, Admiral Han stood on the observation deck of the rebuilt Centauri Prime Station. Below him, the planet's surface showed signs of recovery, green patches spreading where Krell's strip mining operations had once scarred the land. Han watched as human ships moved efficiently through the system, establishing what they called a defensive perimeter. Construction vessels were building something in high orbit, a massive platform that Kim had described as a first response base. "Beautiful view," a voice said behind him. Han turned to see Commander Kim approaching, dressed now in a formal, diplomatic uniform rather than battle gear. "The Coalition Council is waiting," she said. "They're eager to formalize our new protection agreement." Han nodded, but made no move to leave. "Do they understand what they're agreeing to?" "They understand that humanity saved them from extinction," Kim replied. "That's enough for now." "And the price? Your ships are establishing bases throughout Coalition space. Your technology outclasses anything we have. There's nothing to stop you from becoming the new Krell." Kim finished for him. "Is that what you fear, Admiral?" Han met her gaze. "Should I?" Kim looked out at the stars, her expression softening slightly. "Humanity withdrew from galactic affairs because the Council wouldn't listen to our warnings. We spent centuries preparing for this moment, not because we craved power, but because we saw what was coming when no one else would." "That doesn't answer my question," Han said quietly. "No species that has faced extinction forgets the lesson," Kim replied. "We built weapons of unimaginable destruction, not because we wanted to use them, but because we had to. The galaxy needed a guardian, whether it knew it or not." Below them, more human ships arrived, their designs varied, but all carrying the unmistakable hallmarks of weapons built for war. They moved with precision, establishing patrol patterns around the recovering world. "Your people called us paranoid," Kim continued. "Warmongers. But we were right, and being right came with a cost. We transformed our entire civilization into a weapon because we had to. Now we must remember how to be more than that." Han considered her words. "And if another threat emerges?" Then the shadow of human dreadnoughts will fall across the stars once more, Kim said simply. But until that day comes, we'll help rebuild. We'll share some of our technology, establish defensive networks, teach your people to protect themselves, and watch over us all, Han added. Kim didn't deny it. Someone has to. As they walked toward the council chambers, Han took one last look at the stars. Human ships were visible everywhere now, their presence both reassuring and unsettling. The galaxy had been saved from one predator, only to find itself under the protection of another, far more powerful one. The Krell had been mindless consumers, destroying without purpose beyond their own expansion. Humans were something else entirely, calculating, patient, and possessing weapons that could unmake stars. You're wondering. If you've traded one master for another, Kim said, reading his expression. Han didn't bother denying it. Have we? Kim stopped walking. The difference, Admiral, is choice. The Krell gave you none. We offer protection with terms, fair terms. For now, Han said. But power changes those who hold it. History teaches us that much. Then perhaps your people should ensure we remember our humanity, Kim suggested. After centuries of isolation, we could use the reminder. As they entered the council chamber, representatives from a dozen coalition species rose to greet them. Their faces showed a mixture of gratitude, awe, and unmistakable fear as they looked upon the humans who had saved them. Han took his seat, watching as Commander Kim began outlining humanity's terms for ongoing protection. The words were reasonable, the offers of technology sharing generous. Yet he couldn't help but notice how the human ships outside the viewport cast long shadows across the station. The galaxy had burned until human dreadnoughts cast their shadows across the stars. Now, those same shadows brought both protection and uncertainty. A new dawn had come for all species, but whether it would bring light or deeper shadows, only time would tell.